What's going on, to RapNerd, and I'm just now getting around to the remake of Roadhouse, directed by Doug Liman, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. When I first heard this pair coming together to make this remake, I was pretty excited because I like Jake Gyllenhaal. My nickname for him is Crazy Jake because he's that's the level of crazy he can take it that I've seen him do in a lot of his movies. And Doug Liman has directed a few of my favorite action joints, period, like Edge of Tomorrow, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and especially The Bourne Identity. One of my favorite, action thrillers, period. So I was super excited to hear about this movie. A little bit down that it's only going to be streaming, and I'll get to that later. But I went in with kind of high hopes because, like what I just said, and I can definitely say it delivered. I enjoyed the hell out of this film. I think that it was fun. I think that it was a nice change of pace for action films that we've gotten. I think if it went to theaters, it would have definitely made some bank because I think the word of mouth would have carried this thing. So first of all, I have not seen the 80s version of Roadhouse, so this is me just going into this movie as is, not comparing it to how it was or any of that stuff, even though now I do want to go back and watch that because watching this movie, I can feel the 80s ridiculousness, and that's not a knock because that's just a staple of the time, but I can feel some of that coming through the story with the story beats and just the overall feel of the film. It almost feels like Miami Vice type S thing, being in Florida, having to do with drugs and all this other stuff. So the story follows this character named Dalton, which is who Jake is playing, who is an retired MMA fighter. And I think that was an interesting choice to give his background. I'm not aware of what the background was in the 80s film, so I'm not comparing her to anything, but I just think as a modernization of somebody who can fight as good as he does, I feel like him being a retired MMA fighter really works well and speaks to his abilities. And I even like how they first introduced him in the first, scene. I thought it was dope. So during the first events of the film, Dalton puts his skills to use, and an owner of a bar sees his skills and decides to hire him as a bodyguard down in one of the keys in Florida. So as you can imagine, he gets there and he is the top security guard of the establishment, hires some people, teaches them how to fight. And one night that he kind of fucks up the wrong people, it starts a domino block of just a lot of chain of events because these people that he messed up are they work for a huge drug crime boss in the area, so you can imagine where this leads to. That's all I'm going to get into. I don't want to spoil anything because I feel like this is a nice wild ride of a film, especially when Conor McGregor's character gets involved, Knox, who is just a wild card, 8-ball, crazy killing machine. He's in the trailer, so it's not like that spoiling anything, but I just know once he enters the film, shit gets even crazier than it already was from the start. And what I said earlier about it being a detriment that it's not being in streaming is this would have been a whole lot of fun to see in the theater. Like, for me, it feels like I said earlier, Miami Vice, but to modernize that, it almost feels like Bad Boys 2 in a sense. It feels like it's cut from the cloth of something Michael Bay would have done, just because of how wild and crazy it is with these 80s aspects, and then the action being the way it is. I mean, everything that you can imagine in a street level action film happens in this film. So gunfights, knife fights, shit blowing up, car crashes, all types of stuff. All of that is in this film, and it's just fun. Even the way the film is shot, and it's got some really dynamic camera movement that I feel like would have been substantial to see in a theater. And I really like the fight sequences, even though this has kind of been a place of controversy when it comes to this movie, because I feel like it's a double-edged sword almost. There's definitely CGI use, and I think on one end of that, it's cool because it takes away what we've seen so much in action films with the need to be realistic and keep everything in camera, following suit with what the recent trend was. But here, they use CGI and, CG camera work to put you in the fight in a different way. And I actually like that a lot because it's different and it felt really engaging, especially in the final fight, which I feel like that one was edited, shot greatly, felt brutal, felt sadistic. I just really loved how they did it there. That's the best time they did it. But there are other moments when it's like, this is clearly CGI. I can tell, like, when you punch this person, the moment with a fist in the face or whatever body part impacts, there's like this CGI blur that you can see, and then the camera kind of shakes to kind of hide it, but you still can see it a little bit, and it looks a little fake. But if you can bypass that, I still think the action works, you know, but I would be lying to say that a little bit of that wasn't distracting. But I still enjoyed it because it's different. This could be a film that I watch a number of times just because of how entertaining it was. It has everything in it that you can just watch without having to think about much because it presents all of the twists and turns up front. All of the characters are over the fucking top. I mean, they should do a count for how many times the F-bomb was dropped in this movie because it was ridiculous, man. Like, I'm talking like F-bombs like, what the fuck, motherfucker? Like, it was just so over the top and over exaggerated that it made it fun as hell for me. And that's like all of the characters in here. It's a streamlined story that you can just watch, sit down, grab a bag of popcorn, and have a great ass time watching it sitting on the couch. Even though I wish this would have been theatrical release because I do think that it would have slapped seeing it on a big ass screen. So if you've seen the remake of Roadhouse, let me know in the comments what you think and how does it compare to the first one if you have seen it without spoiling it. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.